Welcome to yet another live episode of Pound for Pound Boxer Report, episode 453. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, usual cast of characters. Well, minus one, he'll be on later, but for now, we have regular, basically co-host at this point, Gail from nyfights.com. And a few weeks back, I mentioned that given the fact that I'm a writer, senior writer for 3kingsboxing.com, I want to incorporate more folks from the ThreeKingsBoxing.com crew. You've heard Corey, you've heard Lord Zoe. Well, this evening, we have a contributor for Three Kings Boxing, Jay. What's going on, Gail and Jay?
What's going on?
Hey, we're here. We're offering you an alternative to other choices of entertainment tonight. You don't need no Home Run Derby. You got us.
Indeed. If you're wondering where Daniel is from For Boxing News and the Inscriber, he will join us later on. For those who are new to Three Kings Boxing, excuse me, I keep saying I made that mistake last week. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast site, blog, etc., talking all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out any and all information, please go to the site, p4pboxerreport.com. If you wish to email us with any comments or questions, you can do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. If you want to check out where to find all things Pound for Pound Box Report on social media, got links to the YouTube channel, the Facebook, Twitter, IG page, also links to where you can find the podcast, be it Anchor, be it Spotify, be it Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find Pound for Pound Box Report. If you wish to donate, let donation be the best nation. Got Cash Me, PayPal donation links on the site. Wouldn't matter if it's $1, $2, $5. We'll be eternally grateful. Help the overall production behind the scenes. Last but not least, for my fellow fitness enthusiasts, please check out the link to Body, BODI, formerly known as Beachbody On Demand. Body has fitness programs for any and all goals and interests. If you're looking for a boxing-specific program, check out 10 Rounds. That is a 6-week program, 3 days of boxing-based cardio, 2 days of weightlifting/resistance work at the very least. Take advantage of the ongoing free 14-day trial, and that is for 14 days you get free access to any and all programs on Body. Let's get things going by recapping what was kind of full weekend, and what I may do is have everyone here focus on a couple of fights and then split everything up. Let's start with what was the highlight fight of the weekend, and that is the return of Jaron's Boots Ennis, defending the IBF 147-pound belt in his hometown of Philadelphia against David Avanesyan. Ended up stopping him in 6 rounds, but I'll go to you first, Gail. Afterwards, there was quite a bit of criticism, some criticism towards Boots' way. At times, he left himself open. He got caught a few times before he just basically overwhelming, did what many of us expected him to do. There was a common narrative on boxing Twitter following the fight, comparing Boots to Bud Crawford, someone who Ennis has called out quite often over the past year. And the narrative was, based on that fight, Boots is overrated. Crawford would have his way with him. Your reaction to how Jaron Boots Ennis performed, and some of the criticism that he received, particularly on boxing social media and throughout boxing message and chat rooms throughout.
Boxing Twitter is just flat out ridiculous. Listen, Boots Ennis was very honest about his effort. I thought he nailed it. In fact, he was very hard grader on himself. He said he felt off, and he admitted, as many fighters do not, but he owned up to the fact that ring rust is real. He felt it. His timing wasn't quite where it needed to be, but he did settle down after a few rounds, and he eventually delivered a complete beatdown to David Avanesyan. Now, Boots Ennis has never been a one-hitter quitter kind of fighter. He's always one of these accumulation of damage kind of guys. Once he moves in to deliver a performance like that, you're going to take incoming fire. That's how it works if you're getting close enough. Unless you're one of those one-shot guys, you're going to get hit if you fight like that. So if you're not sharp, you've been out of the ring a while, and he has, that's the kind of performance you're going to see. I thought for someone who's been out of the ring as long as he has, he looked great. He's a gym rat, but you can't simulate fight conditions in the gym no matter how hard you try. So this was a great shaking the rust off. David Avanesyan was the kind of guy who is going to give him somewhat of a challenge, is going to throw back, and I get it. Terrence Crawford iced him with one punch. Crawford's not normally that kind of guy either. But to use their different circumstances and different stages of preparation to measure Boots and Bud Crawford, come on, guys, that's just silly. It's just plain silly. But I was incredibly impressed about how forthright and honest with himself Boots was about what he needed to do and where he needed to improve. A guy that self-aware will always improve and grow from every fight. That's why he's so exciting. And listen, you cannot deny that he packed the Wells Fargo Center with a loud and enthusiastic crowd of fans who were into it. That can be replicated. That is called building a fan base. They should take him right back there for his next fight, and he does intend to have another fight in the fall. God bless him. He's on the right track. Boxing Twitter needs to just calm down.
I'll go to you, Jay. Do I think that Ennis could beat a Crawford if they were to fight now? No. But when you look at the landscape from 147, hell, to 160, I think Ennis stands the best chance. He's the guy who, in my opinion, has the best chance of beating him. And to Gail's point, I don't think he was at his very best against Avanesyan. You have to put things in context here. And I think the criticism was a little bit too much. Folks were too harsh on him. Your reaction to what you saw, as well as some of the backlash.
Honestly, in terms of Boots, I think I grade his performance a solid, I'll say B. But then again, that's ring rust. I think there was a lot of I think he took a lot of unnecessary punishment, and it's not necessarily like hard shots, but it's just shots that if he took from someone that actually has top power, such as like Terrence Crawford, or as he goes up, you know what I mean, it may affect him differently. I think he relies a little bit too much on his reflexes, and that can be a bad thing and set up bad tendencies. But all in all, he went in there, he did his job as he should have. He took him out. The issue I have is, again, with the casual boxing fans that look at this and try to look at Crawford and compare the two. It's really not fair. It's not fair to Boots. It's not fair to Crawford. If you look at both their contexts right now, Boots is, yeah, Boots is taking some criticism. But if you look back on when Crawford decided to take on David Avanesyan, it was a completely different time and a different. People wanted to see different things. You know what I mean? And he went in there and he did what he needs to do easily, and he was late. He was laid off for, I think, a year plus, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, his last fight was
because he beat Sean Porter prior to that, right?
Before Spence Crawford.
Yeah,
Was
before.
it around that time?
Yeah, so it was about that time. Like they wanted to. Everybody wanted to see Crawford versus Spence, but he ended up taking David Avanesyan, and that was like a year after he stopped Porter. So I mean, you could pair the two that way, but I mean, at the same time, I personally, if you were to, if the match were to be made today, I don't think Boots. I think it'll be a good fight, but I don't think Boots beats him just due to the fact that he does have these mental lapses where he takes punishment. There's open shots. He takes these open shots, and Crawford is too good to give him that opportunity. And if he hurts Boots, he's going to finish him. So that's my whole thought process on that.
It is my belief if if the fight was offered and he gets a really good payday, why not go ahead and shoot your shot and take it? Otherwise, um, he should stay at 147. Uh, and as the question is, who at that weight could beat him, or could he get some of those fighters at 147 to come fight him? Because I'm looking at the junior welterweight landscape. Would Haney really come up to fight this dude? No.
Mm.
Would they dare put someone like Ryan Garcia? I know he's been running his mouth when he comes back from suspension, quote unquote, if that's a real suspension. Would they dare put him in there in the ring with him? No. Uh, so let's focus specifically on the weight that Boots is at now. Who could really give him a fight?
Imantas Stanionis could give him a fight because Imantas has a belt, will come right at him. And I'm not saying that I think Stanionis can necessarily beat him, but he's competitive and he has a belt. Yeah, 147, welterweight's a glamour division normally throughout history. And he can easily, there's a clear path for him because there aren't a lot of big names there right now because Errol Spence and Bud Crawford, held things up and eventually collected all the prizes, right? So now those things are floating around and available, and it's time for those guys to start unifying. I'd put him in against Stanionis, first of all. There is discussion that Brian Norman who holds the WBA, interim title, which will be elevated, is being matched up with Teofimo Lopez. Very interesting discussion, but he's another guy with a belt. Beatable, but I think that he might be more competitive than we think. We figured he was going to get taken care of by Giovanni Santillan, and that did not happen. Brian Norman had his way with Santillan, which was very impressive. And his matchmaker, Jolene Mazzone, is not afraid to match him tough. They will go right after this if they think that can happen. There's also Mario Barrios floating around out there, who's also elevated. Now, Mario is yapping about he's going to fight the returning Manny
No,
Pacquiao.
no, no.
Horrible, horrible
I don't
idea.
know.
Horrible idea. I mean, I get it. He gets offered that for big money. I'm not going to hate him for saying yes to that. I get it. It's Manny who needs to just stay out. He's 45 years old. There's just no reason for it. But Boots needs to start unifying. Crawford's fight with Nadrimov is by no means a guaranteed win. He's going to then have other business down the road long before Boots can really get a shot at him and move up. And so he doesn't need to do that right now. He can wait another 6 months, a year to do it until Crawford takes care of his other business. And meanwhile, collect them all. Why not?
Before I go to you, Jay, and Daniel, who's joined us right now, Daniel from 4 Boxing News and the Inscriber, let me read a comment here, put it public here from Larry Listen, who's checking out the show. Appreciate you listening to us live. He says that Boots had a great performance, but he was trying to break him down early. Instead of boxing nicely from the outside, clearly he was trying to stop him faster than Bud. I'll redirect the question to you, um, Jay, and then you can follow up, Daniel. We're talking about Boots Ennis and his stoppage win over Avanesyan. The question is on the table, uh, when it comes to 140, 147, who do you think has the best chance of beating him? Go to you, Jay, and then you can follow up, Daniel.
The best chance of beating him? Honestly, I don't see really nobody beating him. I do agree with Gail in terms of Pantheonis. He does give him a pretty good fight. I do think he would give him a pretty good fight. I mean, maybe To if he decides. I mean, there is talks that
Put
he's
him
talking
in
about
there because
that.
I want to see Boots smoke him. I'm sick and tired of Tail. He played
But it
excessive
just
stuff.
depends on. But it really just depends on like the focus level of To. If we get the focus To, and that's always going to be the issue with him. Is are we going to get that focus To? Um, but honestly, outside of that, I really don't see anybody from 140. Maybe no, no, never mind. Yeah, just I was gonna say Gary Antoine Russell, but after that performance, I just don't. Yeah, he beat him in the AM, so I mean that could be a possibility. But yeah, outside of that, I don't really see anybody else.
Your thoughts, Daniel. Unmute your mic, please.
Yeah, if you're looking at a situation where you're trying to see somebody at 140 or 147 that's currently in the division having the best chance of beating him, it is Teofimo almost by default. Because while Stanios is of the more natural welterweight, we know his skill set as far as defense is pretty limited in some ways, which leaves openings for Boots to pick apart. So as far as between 140 and 147, not anybody right now that can beat, you could say has a fair shot of him outside of Teofimo.
Mhm.
Now, if enough blood money is thrown, because it looks like it has to involve blood money, if you can entice Bud to come down to from 154, that would be the best chance. And then at that point, I would take Bud.
On the undercard, um, you had Skye Nicolson, who is let me read one more comment before I go to other fights. Larry again chimes in. He says that Boots beats Norman pretty easily. Norman just isn't as fast or as athletic to mix it up with Boots. But he also says that Stanionis is an interesting matchup, but he still thinks that Boots will win. But Stanionis is dangerous. He also says that Boots is the current best upcoming American fighter unless he gets railroaded somehow. He could be a future three division champion with his ceiling at 160 pounds. On the undercard, you had Skye Nicolson making the first defense of the WBC women's featherweight title for a lady by the name of Dyana Vargas. Won easily, shut out on the scorecards, right? Here's the question on the table for everybody. Serrano is still unified champion, right? But she has an upcoming fight at 140 pounds this weekend, I believe. And then after that, it's going to be a rematch with Katie Taylor, who's current undisputed at 140. It's looking like that Serrano may not fight at 126 again, even after the upcoming fight this weekend and the fight with uh, Taylor. Given that, should we see Nicholson fight Tiara Brown, who's her mandatory contender? who's been calling out for a fight with Nicolson.
Well, and Nicholson mentioned her at the end of the fight. Yes, the short answer, yes. We could stop it right there. Amanda's got other business. She's got the upcoming fight this weekend, which is her tune-up, which is very smart of her to be active uh, while she's waiting for the Taylor fight. And, there is discussion that depending on what happens in the second fight, that they would perhaps both end their careers with a trilogy fight. Amanda has also then made it clear that she's got other business. She is near the end of her boxing career. She would like to try her hand more seriously at mixed martial arts. So, the ship I think has sailed for Skye Nicolson. So she should take care of her business. Again, very much like Boots. Fight who's in front of you. Fight for those titles when they become available. Skye is improving in her skills. Uh, she is also not a power puncher. I mean, she has certainly not got the power of somebody like Serrano. Um, but she delivers a lot of energy and offense. Her accuracy is getting a lot better. Her angles are getting a lot better. And what was sort of funny about her fight is she was landing so many jabs on Vargas. She admitted after the fight that her hand was sore. Her right hand was starting to get sore. So, to give herself a break, she was throwing these looping left hooks around the guard. They were incredibly effective. I hope they look at video and go back and, maybe she has, a bit through serendipity discovered a new tool for her toolkit, and I'll be very interested to see how they develop that. But she is well liked. She's popular. Um, she's doing fine going through her opposition. She's being matched appropriately. She might as well take on Tiara Brown. I like the American versus the Australian rivalry. And let's see how it goes.
Yeah, Brown after the fight put up a simple message on social media, and I wrote about this over at threekingsboxing.com. Please check out threekingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to the entire Three Kings crew, including Jay, who you're listening to us right now. Jay is a contributor. Shout out to the other contributors, Corey, Loazo, etc. Shout out to Bo, fellow senior writer, along with myself and Bakari. Shout out to 2K, the man behind Three Kings Boxing. And Tiara Brown, I wrote about this for 3KB, had a simple message. Just send the contract. That's all she's waiting on. She's mandatory contender. She wants her shot. Hopefully we will see that fight before the end of this year. Ennis, Avanesyan, Nicolson, Vargas, the same evening as that card, which took place on the Zone on ESPN, you had Raymond Muratalla, right, fighting Tevin Farmer. Now, this was moved up to main event when Janabek Alakanuli, had to withdraw from his title defense. Alakanuli, unified middleweight champion, passed out in efforts to make the weight. So Muratalla and Farmer was moved up. Competitive fight, close fight. Muratalla got the win. The question that I have for you, Jay, is when you look at the top ranked staple with Muratalla, with Keyshawn Davis, with Abdullah Mason, good level of prospects, rising contenders at that 135, 140 pound range. You also got Andy Cruz, who's with Matchroom, right? Where would you put a Muratalla amongst those group of up and comers in that 135, 140 pound range, and how would you grade his win over Farmer?
Muratalla. I enjoyed watching the fight. It was definitely action packed. I think that Muratalla, he's someone you can sell just due to the fact of his activity when he is in the ring. He did outwork I felt, he outworked Farmer for that win and the holding. And I think it was the 8th round. I think the point deduction.
Yeah.
Um, kind of actually solidified it. Honestly, in my opinion. Yeah, I just think that I think that Muratalla has great potential. I don't know if I would put him over Keyshawn Davis just yet. I think Keyshawn has great potential as well. I think that if they move them right, I think Keyshawn has the inside track to being the best of the bunch. Just in my opinion. Now the thing that may derail Davis could be Andy Cruz. That is his Achilles heel, so to speak. I think he has to fight Cruz at some point. If he beats Cruz, then that kind of gets the monkey. I think that gets the monkey off his back because Cruz is coming, whether Davis likes it or not. So it just really just depends on how Top Rank moves these individual fighters. Honestly,
Appreciate the correction, Gail. Is Muratalla.
more she did tell us that.
Yes. First of all, a couple of comments here. This is funny from I mentioned Bo is a fellow senior writer. He's also head of marine media relations. He's checking us out. If you don't know, if you don't know, Jay, Bo has a running joke with Gail that Chavez Jr. is her quote unquote fiance. Being Gail responded.
You didn't. There you go. That's the one you needed to post. Yeah. He's a review mirror, y'all.
How do I want to put this? Muratalla is good, but at this point, I would put Abdullah Mason as a better prospect, better overall fighter at this point. I am more impressed with Mason and Cruz than I am with Keyshawn Davis. But
100%.
I don't think that, but I think that Davis, from what I've seen, is better than Muratalla.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
No, yes. I agree. I can see that.
Muratalla has really made the most of what his skill set is with his work ethic, but he's got a lower ceiling than other guys. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
What's the other guy? The Southpaw, the one whose dad is on social media speaking for him all the time.
Not Virgil Ortiz.
Oh, damn. Oh, what's his name?
Crap,
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Floyd Schofield.
Yeah.
What about him?
Gotcha.
You said what about him?
Would you the comparison between Muratalla and Schofield?
Schofield, I think is he has a better upside, honestly.
Yeah, he's
got
a lot more runway for one thing. He's nowhere near as far along as these other guys, even Mason, to be able to judge him yet. I think he's got significant upside as long as he does what he needs to do, keeps working hard, corrects the mistakes as they become apparent, and keeps improving. That's a lot to do with how these guys come up. And I'm seeing, for example, with Davis, he kind of stalled several fights ago. Kind of just got himself on cruise control. Not the real time in your career where you should be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
He's added some new personnel and training, which was smart. And I've seen him develop a little more of an attitude and a mean streak. And As Bud Crawford and Naoya Inoue have proved, a well-timed mean streak in the ring is a significant weapon. So I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Davis. I very much like that he sort of gave himself a kickstart after getting stalled, and things are looking better for him.
I don't want to leave Daniel out the mix. Your input on this, Daniel.
Comparing Schofield to Muratalla.
Or any of the other upcoming prospect, any other prospect / upcoming rising contenders.
Considering the skill set that he has, personally, Schofield's pretty close, but he's still probably a year or two away from still being a little bit more developed. That's probably the closest one to it, because this fight was kind of weird the way he won it. Yeah, but that probably be the closest comparison, Schofield.
I'll go back to you in terms of this last fight we're going to talk about in the recaps, and that is what was the upset of the weekend as Sulaiman Segawa surprising win over Ruben Villa, who was, I believe, number one ranked by the WBC at 126 pounds. Now, admittedly, I didn't know much about Segawa, but he came in fighting with his hair on fire, the aggression, quicker than Villa, just took the fight to him early. The body work in the middle rounds, Villa started to come on a bit, but in the end, Segawa punishing shots hurt Villa just too much in the end, and won by a fairly comfortable margin. Daniel, your reaction?
I will admit, I did not see the full fight. I saw the highlights. I was very surprised. I was very surprised at how aggressive Segawa came out from the beginning. And I was a bit surprised that Villa didn't adjust as fast as I thought he would to that aggression. It is certainly a surprise. It's a welcome one, though, because except from 126 and 130, they kind of do need a little bit of a shakeup. It's not as bad as 160, I'll admit. It's not as bad as what 160 is right now. But it's getting to that abyss at the moment.
Jay, Gail, quick reaction to this?
Hey, upsets happen in boxing, and thank God they do. If it was all scripted, it'd be professional wrestling. So good for Segawa, taking his opportunity and making the most of it.
I wonder if they fight a rematch, would things be different? Because it seemed that because Segawa was so unknown, he just jumped up and surprised him. And by the time Villa adjusted, it was a little too late. Jay, I wonder if they would fight again, would things be a bit different?
That's hard to say. I understand why Segawa came out like he did. Because if you remember, Villa's last loss against Neverete put pressure on him. You know what I mean? So as Segawa as he was landing shots that I didn't think he honestly. This really was more so about Villa fighting down than it was Segawa fighting up. I think Segawa came in with a game plan to just pressure, and just bring the fight to him, and Villa not adjusting like he should have or making little adjustments here. Because he did, you know what I mean? It did seem like he was going to start to take over the fight, but then Segawa would just continue to do the same thing. And for some reason, Villa would he wouldn't fold, but he would allow that comeback, and he would allow the judges to say, hey, whoa, this guy is really taking it to him, instead of controlling the fight. I just think that I hope he learns from this. If they do have a rematch, which I hope, we will see. I don't know the mindset of Villa. Honestly, he seems like he would come out and make those adjustments just due to his skill set. But who knows? This loss could be detriment to him. It's one thing. It's one thing to lose to someone that's really good in Neverete and is a high ranking opponent, but when you lose to someone that's that you're not really supposed to lose to, it's a different mindset. So we'll see.
Indeed, we will see. Let's move on to some news here. And the crux of the news is two issues or two stories revolving around Shakur Stevenson, right? I usually send a docket with the topics that we're going to cover before the fight. This news broke within the past few hours that the WBC has ordered a fight between Shakur and William Zepeda. Now, both of these two fought. We talked about their fights last week, right? Shakur receiving a lot of backlash over his win. Zepeda scoring a quick third round stoppage, right? Zepeda, Daniel, Gail, and Jay, he's ready for a title shot. It just depends on who is going to be against. I think he's ranked number 1 or something like that in multiple section and bodies. There's been talk of a fight between the two. It's a fight that I would like to see. Even though it's been ordered, there's no guarantee of it happening. I'll get the conversation started with you, Daniel. Will we see a fight between Shakur and Zepeda?
It'll depend on where Shakur goes, because it's looking more and more likely. Because I think Zepeda's number 1 ranked in all 4 sanctioning bodies now.
Correct. Very,
So-
very, very unusual.
Yeah, so there's no avoiding him now. So, but it looks like Oscar's plan is to go the WBO route first. More than likely because we don't know where Shakur's going to go. If Shakur winds up in Matchroom, there's an easy chance that this could be done. Because ultimately, Oscar and Eddie can't break bread. The other contender for his services have been either PBC or specifically Mayweather Promotions. If it's Mayweather Promotions, there's no chance, unfortunately, because of who just took over as president for Mayweather Promotions. So it'll be interesting to see if they do it, because let's face it, I know we're going to talk about it, but Shakur does need a dance partner that's going to make him work. And Zepeda has shown that he's more willing to do that. Even if it means losing a couple of rounds first, he's going to get his shots in. And especially with the amount of body work that he does, it's not going to be a walk in the park for Shakur to me when it comes to Zepeda. I would still make him the favorite, but it wouldn't be a foregone conclusion, as Zepeda has improved fight after fight after fight.
I go to you, Jay, and you can follow up, Gail. To Daniel's point, Zepeda has options. I think a lot of fans would like to see him fight, see Shakur fight Zepeda, but Zepeda could also fight Baranchik, who I believe is WBO champion. But were Shakur and Zepeda fight, who would you favor? I would go with Shakur, but if Zepeda is able to cut off the ring, he could have a lot of success on Shakur.
I agree. I think if they do fight, I would pick Shakur initially, just off top. I think that his defense is great. His footwork is great. His balance is great. The only problem I have with Shakur is that, and that might be one of the reasons why he's considered boring, is because he relies too much on his defense and doesn't counter his opponent like he should. Like, like when you had Floyd would actually punish you for trying to do whatever you're trying to do 90 to 95% of the time. Shakur doesn't really do that. He literally just gets out of range, and he doesn't capitalize on the mistake of if you're lunging in too fast or whatever the case may be, and he just resets. So, but if he does that against Zepeda, I don't know if the judges will see it in his favor. So this could be a really interesting fight, because if he's not throwing like he should be, and he's literally making him miss but not capitalizing off of it, they could literally give the round to Zepeda, or give rounds to Zepeda for his aggression, even though it may not be effective. So this is a fight that I feel that Shakur needs, and he would need to come out and make a statement, not necessarily knock him out, but he would need to dominate and show that he can let be. So, but initially I'm taking Shakur though.
The same question is to you, Gail.
I have now watched Zepeda ringside for 3-4 fights, and seeing him in person is incredibly impressive. He is a human buzzsaw. His stamina in the ring is second to none. There are a lot of guys who train in the mountains, but he grew up in the high mountains outside Mexico City, and his entire cardiovascular system was developed in those conditions, and he works like a dog. So he gets in the ring, he's not going to gas out. He is not going to let you off the hook. He is willing to take incoming fire to land his shots, and he's getting better and better at catching and killing incoming fire. Not completely successfully, because he's just got so much coming at you. And somebody with that much offensive output, as long as it's fairly accurate, there your offense is your defense.
Mm-hmm.
Hit him, you've got to get through all of that stuff coming at you. Now, it is highly possible that Shakur can avoid the worst of it, do just enough to get the nod from the judges, and win a decision. And I agree. I don't think it would be a knockout win for him. But he could win the fight and take a ton of heat for the way he does it, with the fans, getting on top of him, boring fighter. You ran in the ring, and a win, even a win against Zepeda done in that fashion would be damaging. So that is a fight with a lot of risk, but we can't really even discuss it. You're all right about the fact that it really depends on where he goes. If Shakur signs with Mayweather, this is a dead duck deal. It's not happening. Oscar De La Hoya and Richard Schaefer will not do business. And the truth is, it wouldn't have mattered before that. He wouldn't have done business with Ellerby either. So it wouldn't really matter. And Zepeda has other options. He has multiple options. The truth is, the Baranchik fight is a far easier fight for him. Far easier if he wants a belt. I mean, Baranchik is the easiest guy of the belt holders. God bless him. That win against Navarrete was the best win of his career, but it was a mess. It was just and it was not the most pleasant fight to watch, as happy as I was for him getting that win, very emotional win. So everybody should be knocking on Baranchik's door, because he's the guy that they're all most likely to take care of. We'll see what happens. I think it's been a very interesting, you know, discussion to watch for what tea leaves we're reading about Shakur and Oscar having this discussion. You know, that is a very, I don't know if we've got an opposites attract issue going on here. This is not the place you would assume Shakur would land. You know, Oscar has rebuilt his stable with a lot of young rising star prospects. You know, not a lot of them are to the point where Zepeda is now, but they're going to get there. But he prefers the classic Southern California, Mexican American and Mexican born, Mexican style, all offense fighters. And that's what the fan base here likes, right? He can always match his guys because, you know, as big names or not big names, they're as good or as not so good as they are, they always deliver entertainment. So he can still put the butts in the seats. His smaller shows do very, very well. He sells out Fantasy Springs. He has a card with a lot of prospects and a lot of names nobody knows on Thursday, and that place will be packed. Adding Shakur to that mix, that's going to be a really difficult cultural adjustment for Shakur. You know, talk about being the new kid in a school where, you know, the culture is completely different. That would be an extremely bold move on his part. I'm interested to see whether it ends up being anything, or whether he decides to go another direction. Whatever he does, he should not sign a long-term deal. He should give himself the maximum flexibility he can. A couple of fights is more than enough right now.
I want to apologize first off if you hear some background noise. Thunderstorm is hovering over where I reside, so you like to hear some loud noises. It is thunder at this point. We'll get back to Shakur in a second, but as Daniel noted in the private chat, we've missed a fight, and I apologize for that. So I want to go back and cover it right quick. The return of Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Been out of the ring for what, a year and a half plus almost. Fought last week on Friday. Robo Barrera ended up stopping him in 8 rounds. Chocolatito is 37. He's officially moved up to 118 pounds. He wants a title shot at the end of the year. Here's my question that I pose to everyone. Word on the street is he's shooting for a fight with Takuma Inoue. I wouldn't put Roman in there against Nakatani. That's just a bad matchup. But Inoue, tell me why I'm wrong in thinking that Roman, even at this point of his career, could beat someone like Takuma.
Well, I'm going to jump in here and render the same opinion I did after Friday's fight, and it may not be popular, but that never really stopped me before. I do not think Roman should pursue this. There is no need for him to do this other than to add that extra number on paper and go from being a 4 weight division champion to a 5 weight division champion. What's that going to matter when his career is over? He is a lock for the Hall of Fame. He completely changed the landscape in the modern era for the smaller division fighters. He has surpassed his idol and hero, Alexis Arguello, on paper and arguably with his performances. He looked like the Roman we've all come to love to watch. The incredible punch output, angles, accuracy, power was all there. But he was up against a fighter built for him, a guy that was there to be hit, that didn't have the firepower or again, the stamina, even at 37, to come back at him. You know, and the truth is that Roman earlier in his career beat the crap out of his brother. So It's kind of insulting to take down both members of the family. You could see the ring rust, though, very similar to Boots Ennis. Those first couple of rounds, a lot of us were starting to chew our fingernails off, saying, maybe this was a really bad idea. But, he settled in, muscle memory kicked in, he got into a groove, and he looked great. And fighters need to go out in that kind of blaze of glory. I get it. There was no belt involved, but he was at home. The fans were roaring. People, around the world were watching. He needs to call it. There is nothing left for him to prove. I just see no upside to this at all.
Fellas, do you echo Gail's sentiments?
Yeah. Remember, we saw the fight on Friday. In the end, like by the third or fourth round, the Chocolatito that we fell in love with as a fighter arose and finished the job. But at this stage, with the amount of layoffs he's taken, he should not pursue this. I'm sorry. He should not pursue. I get it. Fighters want to go out under shield. Fighters want to leave everything in the ring. But I know it's gonna sound like a bad comparison, but it is something that has to be thought about. He can always just go out the way Andre Ward did. Andre Ward went out when he pretty much finished all what he needed to do. Yes, there's some debate about whether his record should be where it is. We all know about the fights with Kovalev. Just like with Chocolatito, we know about the first fight with Gallo. But at the end of the day, that it's not at a point where I think he should do anything outside to exceed legacy. Like, he's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he retires today, we're gonna see him in Castaneda in 2029. And he has allowed boxing fans to actually start paying attention to the lower guys. Because think about it, if Roman didn't fight the way he fought with Chocolatito, would we even talk about, if we talked about Golden Boy, Scrappy Ramirez? Probably not. We wouldn't focus so much on the Maloney brothers. Probably Joshua Franco or Ben Rodriguez wouldn't get the love that they were getting now without Chocolatito reigniting the passion for the lower weights in the modern times. He shouldn't push anything further. He just might. The only way I could see it is out of loyalty to Mr. Honda, because he is a Titan fighter. And maybe he's seen as a way of, okay, if I fight in a way, I could probably beat him, but if I'm not, I'm doing a solid for Mr. Honda.
Your thoughts, Jay?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I don't think he should pursue it. He's had a wonderful career. I mean, if he wants to keep going, honestly, I would rather him just try to seek revenge on Estrada again. Give us one more of those, and then both of them right off in the sunset. Honestly, I did watch that fight, and yeah, you could see the ring rust, you could see some of the age, but he was still Chocolatito. He was still coming. He was still a force. But I would much rather him, go out a different way, whether it's, another fight with Estrada, or just retire there, on top. It's his career is just great. And I think that he should just leave it as is. If you're gonna do it, just give us one of those classics. of him and Estrada. That's the only thing I really would like to see before they go. They, retire. They both retire.
Interesting. Back to Shakur. We went into a lot of detail about his fight and some of the pushback that he received for his win. That backlash has continued, and Shakur has um, basically taken time out to respond to just about damn near anybody who has to say anything about him, particularly if it's negative. Whether it's him going back and forth with Cam and Mace, whether it's him going back and forth with Andre Berto, various boxing fans, or even trolls on Twitter, right? Uh, this is an open question for everybody. Is it getting to the point that um, Shakur is wasting his time? He need not argue. He's doing too much. He called it. He wrote Twitterson on the back of his trunks for the last fight. He's living up to that name, but not in the best way. Is it time for
Mhm.
someone to pull him aside and say, Enough is enough. You've talked enough. Focus on the fight."
Honestly, yeah, I think somebody should tell him that. But at the same time, I think that this generation or these generation of fans will forget you quickly, and I think that's his fear. Um, he's a great talent. Um, he's not as appreciated as he should be, just due to the fact of it's just the new age fans. People, you know what I mean. People want to see knockouts. People want to see entertainment, but not a lot of the fans know just the basics of the sport of boxing. They just want to see the knockout. You know what I mean? They just want to see two individual people going at it, not really playing defense, just blow after blow. And yes, that is appealing. That is highly appealing to a lot of people. But also, it's boxing is honestly the basics of boxing. Boxing is literally a lost. It's a lost art. Honestly, you like you have to be flashy with everything. You can't just be basic. That's why Andre Ward, like you said, isn't as appreciated as he should be. Yeah, his record isn't as spectacular, but what he did in the ring um, isn't as appreciated as it should be. And I think Shakur has fallen under that category, unfortunately. And he's trying to find his way out of that pit so that he can be seen and appreciated. Um, that's my spiel on it. I think he should. I don't think he should talk much. I think he should just go out, get the best fight available, and just dominate.
Uh, um, the constant pushing back from Shakur, Gail and Daniel, is it becoming too much?
Becoming, it was too much a long time ago. And I get it. Everyone says, well, gee, why don't they just get some public relations advice? Why doesn't somebody just explain to them why they should stop? Trust me, trust me. Somebody with their promoter, with, you know, a person around them from their team who tried to get through to them, they've tried. Someone has tried. It's not going to happen. They are the captains of their own ship. They listen to nobody, or they wouldn't do this. And part of it is because they have grown up with this tool, social media. It would be like telling them to stop breathing, to stop posting. They just it's inconceivable in a way that those of us who don't live that way and didn't grow up that way, we find that really hard to to figure out. But that's what's going to happen. Many of you know that my full-time job is running a public relations firm, and I have had plenty of clients who paid me very well for my advice, my good advice, my best possible advice. And, paid me the money and then ignored every single thing I had to say to them. I mean, that's just going to happen. They're also the same people who do not listen to their attorneys, who do not listen to their financial advisors, who never listened to their parents, their boss. That's the way it goes. So he's not going to stop. Neither is Ryan Garcia. The only one that seems to have kind of calmed down the Twitter trigger finger is Teofimo Lopez lately. Good.
Daniel?
Yeah, it's the product of the social media age. Like you mentioned, you mentioned the three best examples of kids that have grown up in the social media age and who believe in the original mission of social media was to interact. It's true. It's supposed to be interact with fans. You're supposed to be more communicated with it. But we also know how toxic in many aspects social media has become. And unfortunately, this is a product of social media. This is their main response. Particularly now that Shakur's a free agent. Because if probably he had a few fights still under Top Rank, they would have tried. Even though he wouldn't listen, they would have tried a little bit more to say, tone it down. You don't have to respond to everybody. We'll find an opponent that'll highlight your attributes better. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And Jay's also right. The attention span of the social media just made it so that if you don't talk to everybody, if you don't look at you're responding to everybody, people can easily forget you. Again, Shakur is a particular case now since he's a free agent. Because whoever he signs with, they're going to have to rebuild him from scratch as far as PR goes. Rebuild a high package, rebuild him to a different type of audience to make sure he can really jumpstart the career. He's not doing himself any favors by answering everybody that criticizes it. And another thing, yeah, some criticism can be stupid. Some criticism can be dumb. Some criticism can be constructive, and you might want to listen. Shakur may want to listen to, hey, I'm getting this type of criticism over and over and over again. Maybe I should actually fix at least one aspect of what they're complaining about, so then they have less to complain about.
Yeah. No one to hold him, no one to fold him, no one to speak out, no one to shut up. Shakur hasn't learned that lesson. He seems to me caught in the middle, wanting to respond when I don't really think that's really who he is at his essence. I'll just follow the last thing Daniel says. Listening to the wrong folks, right? He's pushing it back against criticism from folks on social media, but wasn't paying attention to the healthy criticism from Ward and Bud after the fight when it came to how he fought in his last outing, not using the jab, not staying disciplined, not even listening to his granddad in his own corner. Do that. Take the criticism. Pay more attention to criticism from those in your inner circle, mainly your trainers and folks who care about you most, like Bud, like Ward. Then paying attention quite frankly, folks like us, because we don't know you and they do know you, right? Um, do that, and I think in the end, he will be better off. Again, my apologies. If you hear some background noise here, we're recording this right as I'm going, as a thunderstorm is passing through me. Excuse me. Let's get to some of these fights that's happening this weekend. The main crux of the main events are happening in Japan on July 20th, headlining Jay, a fighter who we've talked about a lot over the past 6 months to a year here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. That is Junto Nakatani. He's also received a lot of coverage over on Three King Boxing. Right, reigning WBC champion at 108 pounds. Is my personal belief that he stands the best chance against Anak Oya in a way. It seems that both fighters are interested in fighting each other. It seems that Nakatani is laying out a plan to hopefully fight in a way at some point in 2025. Nakatani returns to the ring against Vincent Astrolabio. When I look at this and studying both fighters, Jay, I'm not going to say an outright mismatch because I don't want to be completely disrespectful to Astrolabio, but Nakatani is a special fighter. Um, I think he has elite talent, and I think he's clearly the better man heading into this upcoming title defense.
I 100% agree. You probably being nice. I don't think. I don't honestly. I do not see. I don't see Nakatani losing at all. I think. I don't think he'll knock him out, but I do think that he will probably have a knockdown or two. Just due to the fact that he has great timing, great footwork. He has power, speed. So I think he will create angles to counter Vincent. Um, and I just think it's just going to be. I think it's going to be a mismatch. Yeah, it's going to be a mismatch. I think he's going to win probably about. I think he'll win about 5 rounds. Five. He would close it out. No, I think Vincent will probably win. No, not 5 rounds. He'll probably win about three. I'll give him about 3 rounds.
And just like you claiming I was being generous in terms of um, giving National Body chances, you're being generous in terms of that initial 5 rounds because no way on paper. Two at most.
I know.
Um,
I had to think
there's
about
a
it.
good
But I was
chance.
like,
There's a
wait
good
a minute.
chance.
I'm being too nice right now. No, I'm not. 3 rounds at max.
It's a good chance he's going to get stopped in this fight. On the undercard, Daniel, of this three world title fight triple header, Kosei Tanaka, who low key has been one of the better fighters in the lower weight divisions, right? Three division champion. People still define him by the sole loss of his career to Ioka back in December 2020. He's recovered, is a world champion now at 115 pounds, fighting a Jonathan Rodriguez who, if you remember, uh, um, fought on Cajas a few years back, was stopped in 8 rounds. Um, Rodriguez is talking about going for the KO, but when Kosei Tanaka is right, he's one of the better offensive fighters in the sport. Um, I think personally, despite his defensive flaws, Tanaka, despite having some questions about his chin, I just think he has too much of an offensive arsenal for Rodriguez to deal with.
This is a situation of, to me, Tanaka really being motivated to try to put on the show, because sadly, you are right. He is still defined by that loss to Kazuto. Even though it happened 4 years ago, And he should already have eclipsed that since then. I think he did. But people still remember for it. So he's going to try to show up, particularly after Kazuto's last fight. So I expect him to come out. Rodriguez, he's a good opponent. He can handle shots pretty well, but I don't think he's going to be able to handle the onslaught on offense that Tanaka's going to bring.
I'll try to speed through this before the storm gets too bad, Gail. Riku Kano, Anthony Olascuaga. If you remember, Olascuaga gave Kinshiro Taraji pretty tough go before eventually getting stopped. Fighting a Kano I don't know much about. I've seen a little bit of clips of him. If Olascuaga is improved from what I thought was a very impressive performance in defeat against Kinshiro, I give him a heck of a chance here.
It's an interesting matchup. It's an even matchup. Kano, for a 26-year-old, he's had a lot of fights. He's 22-4-2, and 2 of those 4 losses are knockouts. And he has had a lot of close fights. His level of opposition, not the greatest. So definitely this is a very even matchup. It'll be interesting to see what he's got after those 28 bouts. So he's got the 2 draws as well. So I think it's one of those fights that maybe neither guy is at the top tier, but they're so well matched and they're both so offensively minded. I think it'll be a real interesting fight. Olascuaga, kind of one of those mystery Mexican guys, right? Who gets brought over to be an opponent. His worst losses to Kinshiro. He made it 9 rounds before referee Mark Nelson stopped the fight, and he was well behind on the cards, and I mean well behind. But that's 2 fights ago. It's last April. It'll be interesting to see what he learned from that he might be taking into this fight. This will kind of be a dandy little firecracker.
Last fight before we begin to shut things down. Earlier, we mentioned Amanda Serrano's name when talking about Skye Nicolson, where Serrano also fights this weekend in Tampa on DAZN, fighting someone named Stevie Morgan, 10-round junior welterweight battle. Tell me why I'm wrong in thinking this is just basically a fight to get Serrano busy and prepare her for her upcoming rematch against Katie Taylor.
But you're not wrong, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is a really smart thing for Serrano to do. She crashed out of her long-anticipated Puerto Rico homecoming by one of the strangest medical, cancellations of a fight ever from, hair products damaging her vision. I guarantee you she will not be going to the hair salon right before the fight this week. That's not going to happen. Morgan is a local fighter from Florida, from Tampa. She has on paper what looks like a really good record, 14-1 with 13 knockouts. But most of her fights have been in Colombia. So again, level of opposition is always really important to get beyond what BoxRec says. And she has never stood across from anybody with the firepower and the drive of Amanda Serrano. For Serrano, though, she's got to acclimate to that heavier weight. That's going to be really important for her. It is also going to be 10 2-minute rounds, not the 3 minutes that, given Serrano's preference, she would prefer. And it's because she is going to fight Taylor with 2-minute rounds, because Taylor, being the champion, gets the call. So it's smart for her to put in a little muscle memory at this weight division with the same amount of time in the ring so that her timing is correct and her level of aggression matches, how much gas she's got in the tank, right? So it's a very smart thing for her to do. And this is a great opportunity for her to get in front of a lot more fans on that Jake Paul, Mike Perry undercard, which is going to be trash-tastic, I must say.
And your fiance Gil?
I know. He's on the card. But that main event, I got to tell you, I'm going to admit it. I am dead curious. Mike Perry is a crazy MF. He's entertaining. He has taken the world of bare knuckle by storm. So how's that going to translate in the ring? I think it's going to be very interesting. But what's so nice about these cards, love Jake Paul or hate him, he gives so much visibility to the fighters on the undercard. He has really been the promoter that every top level women's fighter needs. He transformed the latter part of Amanda Serrano's career, so he's really making good too. On the payday she was supposed to get, and more people are going to see her if she has a really good performance. That is nothing but positive for her upcoming fight against Taylor.
Yeah, I guess from a business wise, that guy has made a lot of impact, but just in the ring, put it this way, that's why I'm leaving it up to you to talk about him, because as a fighter, I refuse. I refuse. I'm more interested in Serrano. I'm more interested in Shadeja Green returning, and we talked about up and coming lightweight / 140 prospects. Another one, Ashton Silve, who I'm very impressed by. He's fighting on this card as well, and I think we're going to end things on that note before this thunderstorm gets too bad my way.
Hear it! Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Us Californians out here, Jay and I are like, what? What the hell is that?
Right. Y'all don't know about these pop-up storms in the midst of this nearly 100-degree weather with humidity that will sap all your energy. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who joined us. I want to thank everybody who commented in the live chat, Larry, as well as Bo. Again, fellow senior writer, head of media relations for 3kingsboxing.com. I'll go to the panel here. We begin the show with ladies first. Going to end the show with ladies first. And Gail from nyfights.com for anyone who want to talk the sweet science. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Well, we got a lot of action this week. We do have a Pro Box card this week. We've got a Golden Boy Prospects card on Thursday. We've got the crazy pay-per-view. And you want to talk to me about Jake Paul versus Mike Perry, I'm all about it. I'm at nyfights.com for my regular coverage. You can find me easily on all the regular social media.
I'll go to you, Jay. Jay, contributor for 3kingsboxing.com. For those who want to talk all things boxing, let the folks know where they can find you.
I don't like to talk to people, man. You know that. I don't want to talk to nobody here. No.
I think that's a very healthy attitude, frankly.
No. You can just JL Davis at on Facebook. That's it. I don't really be in there like that. But yeah, if you want to talk, I'm on.
And I'm not going to spill the beans, but in terms of Three Kings Boxing, we're cooking up something that Jay's going to be as far as Three Kings Boxing. Just stay tuned for that. I'm not going to say what it is, but we're cooking up something pretty significant, pretty big. So be on the lookout for that within the next, hopefully, month or so. I'll go to you, Daniel, for Boxing News, the inscriber for those who want to talk anything boxing, anything pro wrestling, anything the NBA, especially when it comes to Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can find you.
All right, it's the same handle number, folks. Twitter, Mastodon, Threads, Spoutable, even Blue Sky. I still remember I have that. Box 99 RKZ99. Catch me on there, and we're probably going to have a little bit of an Olympic break as far as basketball goes, because it's getting ready for that season, and then to lament how we're going to lose in breakdancing.
Indeed. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, you know what it is. On Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, Brother JR, at Brother JR76. On the next episode, we will have a recap of the fight between Serrano and Stevie Morgan. We may talk about Shadeja Green and her fight against Natasha Spence, and I also mentioned Ashton Silva, very talented lightweight prospect who's fighting also on their card. We will have a recap of the 3 world title fight triple header in Japan. That's going to be on July 20th in Tokyo on ESPN Plus. Junto Nakatani defending the WBC 118-pound title against Vincent Astrolabio. Kosei Tanaka defending the WBO 115-pound strap against Jonathan Rodriguez. And Riku Kano fighting Anthony Olascuaga for the vacant WBO flyweight title. And we will have a preview of, I guess because it's here, we got to talk about it. Joe Joyce, Derek Chisora. No one asked for this, but since it's happening, we got to talk about it a little bit. Also, the return of one Clarissa Shields, as she is fighting Vanessa Joannis for the heavyweight title. No one asked for that either, but it is happening. That's going to be in Detroit on the Zone. And we may we will probably also preview one of the more exciting fighters in the lower weight division, Jinjiro Shigeoka, who you heard mentioned numerous times on this particular podcast. He's making a title defense against Pedro Tadaran over in Japan. That fight is going to happen on July 28th. So again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the chat. Appreciate your comments and your questions. For Gail of nyfights.com, for Jay, contributor for 3kingsboxing.com, for Daniel of 4Boxing News and the Inscriber. This has been episode 453 of Pound Box Report. I'm your host, Michael. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.